Welcome back to the studio. One of the enduring things about quilting, at least for me, is my love of fabric. And I have been quilting since around 1990. One of the funny things about looking back, though, at some of the fabric from that time period is just how flat some of those fabrics were. They weren't real, they weren't as exciting as some of the fabrics we have today. But even so, I remember when I first started seeing some of the solid plain fabrics in the store, and I couldn't imagine why anybody would want to use them. They just didn't seem to do much for me in regard or in comparison to some of the prints that were available. And it took me many years to appreciate the value of some of those fabrics. Even though the shop that I originally started quilting at and later worked at, we did teach a few classes on Amish quilting. And so we did have solids used in Amish quilts. And I still didn't have an appreciation for the solid fabrics, even though I could see the beautiful quilting and the areas of how the quilting would stand out in those fabrics. So I think it took a long time for me to appreciate why anyone would want to use solids. And so we'll jump forward many years into to the first time I think I ever got a use out of solids. And I had been to Quilt Festival in Houston one time, and I had taken a class. And I remember getting this class list, a supply list, and the list was quite long. And I spent quite some time getting all of the materials and picking out all of this fabric for this class, only to get there, and by the time you got into the class and set up and got all of your stuff out and the teacher gave some short instruction, it was time to pack up and go home. And we barely did anything with the fabric. We cut into it, and I really just felt like I had just wasted the fabric. I didn't really feel like I learned a whole lot. And I didn't feel like I wanted to continue with it once I got it home. I just feel like it was a kind of a jumbled mess. So the second year that I went back into classes, instead of following all of these great details about picking out the fabric, if it was a technique class, I just brought a collection of solid fabrics. They were a lot less expensive. I didn't mind wasting them so much, and I could still learn the technique. In fact, it was usually easier to actually see the technique without the print of the fabric kind of overtaking your eye, your focus away. And so I remember from then on, whenever I took a class like that, I always would use solids in a technique class, like learning curves or special points or a start. And I would use that almost like a dressmaker would use muslin to do a test dress or a test blouse. And then once they got that down, then they would move on to their beautiful fabric. So that was the first time that I ever got an appreciation for solids at all. And then we'll jump forward probably another 7 years forward. And I was at Quilt Market again, actually, yeah, it was Market this time. And I saw these little aluminum tins. They were about like this big, about like this high, and they had like a clear lid on it. And what they were silk dupioni fat quarters. And I think they had 4 or 6 different collections, maybe as many as 8. But because they were fat quarters and you had a collection, it made getting the silk dupioni a little more affordable in a collection. And the fat quarter was enough for you to do something like a nice little star quilt. And so I think I bought 2 of those and brought them home. And they just sat there on my shelf, kind of tormenting me for a year or two. And so then when I finally decided what I wanted to do with them, uh, I wanted to get more. And so I was talking to Patricia, and she said they weren't available anymore. But she had two, and she had two that I didn't have, two different colorways. And so she said she had never come up with any way to use them herself either, so she just gifted me her two. So I had now 4 different colorways of these Silk Du Peony, and I made a deconstructed Lone Star. In fact, I made 2. I used so many colors in the strips of the Lone Star because I wanted to have a lot of color in there. That I had enough strips to make 2 whole quilts, which is what I ended up doing. One with a gray background, one with a black background. And instead of just having like one red, I used like 5 reds in that same position so that it really had kind of a shimmering or radiant effect. And it was just something that I had seen. It was a foundation cloth Lone Star that they were selling, and I thought, well, I know how to make a Lone Star. I know how to calculate that, so I'm just going to draft it myself, which is what I did. So I made 2 of those, and I'm going to try and find a picture of both of those. I have gifted those to my niece, and she has both of those. She's a marriage therapist. I'm not sure the exact degree, but I gave her those for her office. So that was the second time that I used solids. And then the third time has just been more recently. During the kind of like the COVID lockdown, my mom and I started watching someone on YouTube, and I don't know how these people pop up on your YouTube, but she's a quilter, and I watch a lot of quilting on YouTube. And the name of the channel was called The Last Homely House, and I just found her so endearing. Many people have already said on the channel, but I found the same thing myself. It was like just going to a friend's house and having a cup of tea and chatting. She's very down to earth, very just a wonderful, low key person. She does quilting and gardening, cooking. She does knitting. She spins wool. She does some painting. She does English paper piecing. I think the only thing I haven't seen her do, she does hand quilting, but she doesn't do heirloom quilting. She does larger quilting with the 12 weight, or number 12 thread, or a fill. But my mom and I started watching her, and I think by now I've watched just about every episode she has multiple times. But she rekindled my love for Liberty fabric. Now, I made a quilt with Liberty fabric years ago. Again, this was probably a kit that I got from a quilt market or festival, because again, Liberty fabric is one of those expensive things. And the kit gave you enough fabric to make 1 star out of each of the patterns. And I should have brought that as well. But anyway, that's a different story. So I did make that quilt, and I have that quilted somewhere. I made that over 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And it's mostly in blues, has a little bit of red in it, but I just really love the Liberty fabrics. They're very soft and beautiful. But she uses a lot of Liberty. Of course, she's in England, Northumbridge, I believe. Her name is Kate, and anyway, I've been watching a ton of her stuff, and one of the things that she has done several times is that she will use a solid print with a designed print, and that really makes the fabric pop, the design pop a little bit more, and I've really enjoyed that. And she's done at least three different things that I'm kind of copying, I guess. I don't know why. I know quilters do this, make the same thing other people make all the time. I mean, that's how patterns sell. But when I do it, I feel kind of like I'm cheating for some reason. But I really have been enjoying myself because I haven't been able to quilt much at all. But a lot of these things were English paper piecing. Well, some of them are anyway. But I also have set up a little tiny station on the end of my dining room table. And it ends up having to be actually the nicest setup I've had, because the table's higher and my knees fit under it a lot better than they do these sewing cabinets, because my legs are taller, I guess. And so I really can fit under it a little easier. So I'm just going to show you a couple of these projects that I've been working on. And these on here that you see that I've spread out, these are the fabrics that I purchased specifically for these projects that I'm working on. These are the solids. This is a mix. Some of these, about half of them, these are Tanalons, which are the same as the Liberty Tanalons, that the same weight, so that there's no unevenness in the finished quilt. But some of these are Pima cottons, which are a little bit heavier, but not a lot heavier. As I run my hand across them, I can't feel which one is which. You could feel it if you had them in your hand this way, but running this way you couldn't feel it. But if I had a quilting cotton in here, you could certainly feel it, because the quilting cotton would be a little coarser. These almost feel like satin. They're so soft, but they are more expensive. In American dollars, Tanalon runs about $40 a yard, so you really want to calculate what you need a lot closer than what you would with quilting fabric. But the colors are really vibrant, and the hand of the fabric is really beautifully soft. So I'm going to bring the camera in a little bit closer and show you 3 of the different projects in various stages that I've been working on with the solids, and just to give you an idea of how the solids work with the print, and why I've kind of chosen to start doing that. The first one I'm going to show you is the least advanced as far as how many, as far as the block is concerned. You'd have to know what a flying geese looks like. This is called a no waste flying geese block, and this is just halfway through the process. But you can see what at least what the color looks like with the print. And all of these prints are Liberty of London prints. Some of them have a little bit more contrast than others. And I know some of the names of some of them. This is a Betsy. This is a William Morris print called Strawberry Thief. And a lot of these come in different different colorways. This one has several. This Paisley has several. This is Betsy again. This one, I believe, was called Chintz. This had 3 different colorways. We may even see another colorway today. And this one had, I think, 5 different colorways. But you can just see how the different solids kind of impact the print, but it is a little harder on this one to see what the block will look like. But you will see this one later. This is a flying geese, will be a flying geese quilt. All of the backgrounds of these blocks will be various shades of green. Some of them tend a little bit more to the blue and some a little bit more to the yellow, but they're all background will be in green. And she did one very similar to this, and green's my favorite color. So that's why I stole this idea. This one is progressed a little bit further. This was a 60-degree 6-pointed star. I only did half of this one, and then I realized that I didn't like the size of it. What's going to be solid on this block, it will be this diamond here, which will connect to the other blocks. So we can see on here, I got a larger diamond, and this is one of the first blocks that's actually assembled. But you'll be able to see the diamond that goes here would be a solid, and it will depend on which block it's next to, what color I'll choose. Let's see if I can figure out how this would go. It would be something close to that. So you would have a diamond here, but it would all be in one solid. So those would all go together, and I've only done a couple of these. I had started to do some of them with a glue stick, glue basting, but I was finding that I hadn't left myself enough of the edge to sew them together. They're too tight. So I'm having to go back and just do them with the thread basting, which is what these are. But that's a learning curve. Here I am 110 years old and I'm still learning. So that is a 60-degree diamond, 6-pointed star. I'll have to put that one back together. It goes a certain way. And the next one is going to be all solid. This shape is a house, little house shape, paper piecing. But when you put 4 of them together, it creates a plus sign. Plus or a positive. I'm calling it positive pluses. Now she did a quilt like this. She had mixed some K Fawcett fabrics and some solids, and this quilt was going to be for one of her grandchildren, and she was showing her I think it's her daughter and son-in-law, and letting them play with the blocks, and the son-in-law chose only the solid ones. So she was miffed a little bit, but I think in the end she just went ahead with it and just used maybe 1 or 2 of the prints. But this is what these will look like when they're assembled, and these interlock. Really need a design board for this. But these will be all different colors of solid. They won't just be what am I doing wrong here? I'll figure it out. This one was for a half one out here. The thing that I like about this, my friend, my good quilting friend Marguerite, was like, what on earth are you starting another project for? You have so many applique things going already. But I was like, you know what? I'm afraid to do my applique because if I lose a piece, then, you know, I'm in trouble. But if I lose one of these pieces, I just make another one. And these are so little that I could really do them just sitting in bed. So I think I have 4 more of these. So that gives you an idea of what these would look like, and it just gives you really a nice visual impact of the color. It does give you some places to quilt if you wanted to do some interesting quilting. I don't know that I will be doing that. I may even just quilt in the ditch so you don't see any quilting at all. But I was just really struck by this pattern and the simplicity of it. So that's, what is that, number 2 or 3 with the solids? And it's funny because all of these are are just all recent. I mean, after what, 35 years of barely using solids, now I'm in the plain solid pool swimming in the deep end. But I think that's how it works, isn't it? We go through little trends. I think I'm going to put that on here as well. And this is the last one, last but not least. I'll get this out of the way. This one is, I forget what she called it. I know it's a 16 patch, but I think she had another name for it. This is just made from combining 2 strips and then cutting the strip in half and joining it again, and then subcutting it the width of the original width of fabric and alternating them. So it's a super simple block, but even from these two, you can really see how that solid makes the print pop. And it's fun to pick out different variations, even with the same print. So again, these are all Liberty prints. This particular one here, I know is from the Bridgerton collection. This is that same blue paisley. This is Betsy again. This is a different colorway of the chintz. The darker version of the paisley. That star that we've seen already. This is the Wiltshire berry, and this comes in so many different colorations. It's one of the ones that I used many years ago, and it's one of my favorite. It's almost like when you haven't seen a friend in 20 years and you like get to get reacquainted. I just really like that print. I'm not sure the name of this one. This is Wiltshire berry again, in a different coloration. And here's Wiltshire berry again. I think this one's called Pink Lemonade, that coloration. But I don't know, I think it's going to be really fun when all of these are put together. I know some of them are dark. I may not put all of them in, but I'm just going to keep making them. I think I'm going to try and make 100 of them, because these are about 10 inches finished. So 10 by 10, that would be about 100 by 100. Maybe I'll only make 80 by 80. No, that's, I don't know. Maybe I'll finish at 80 by 80 and then put a border. But I just like the variety, but I also like the checkerboard effect of the solids and the prints. And I really like how it really makes it pop out. I probably wouldn't put those two together, but at any rate. So that's been my little journey with solids over the years. I just wonder if anybody else has had, I don't know, maybe a type of fabric or a designer that at one point they didn't like. Maybe it was a theme like 1930s fabric. 1930s fabric is, again, one of my favorites. My mom loved it, the feed sacks. But if there's something that maybe at one time you didn't like, and you've grown to really enjoy using it, I will tell you another one that I had to have grow on me was the K. Fawcett fabric. I was not a big fan when I first saw it, but for years before that, I had been working with Robin Pandol fabric, which was very muted, vintage looking fabric. And so the K. Fawcett was a little bit garish looking after that. So it took me a while. But then with some of the other fabric that was available at the time, I grew to appreciate it because there wasn't really much else on the market. But it's just a fun how we travel through fabric and how our tastes change. And I just wonder what experiences you might have had with fabric. Anyway, that's all I have for you for today, so thanks for stopping in. Until next time, keep piecing it together.